Welcome back to r/entitled parents, where Karen becomes OP's maid and ends up taking their stuff. We've got entitled parent, entitled kid, and me. So, back when I was 12, my family and I lived in a very small town, a place where everyone knew each other and no real problems took place. It was a calm, safe environment, completely free of Karens, which is why, after this one time, entitled parent and entitled kid showed up, things started getting annoying. There was a park right next to my house named after my nickname because all my friends would go there to have fun, and since it had no real names, they decided to name it after the closest person there. Naturally, I used to go there as well. Can't say it was a special park, but it sure was the only one where we lived. Since we, my group of classmates and friends, knew everyone at the park, we got a little surprised after seeing this new couple of individuals. They seemed normal at first. The entitled kid was a 5-year-oldish chubby boy, and he got used to having fun with us. We were nice kids too. But the entitled parent we never really liked. She always looked smug and annoyed by something, and soon enough, our suspicions of her not being that good of a person were confirmed. This park was so small, parents didn't even show up with their kids, so seeing entitled parent was also quite new. One time, the entitled kid got a little upset over us not letting him on the slide as much. There was literally just one slide in the entire park, but we just told him to wait his turn, which he responded to by saying something incredibly rude that you can't really say in English. Basically, a slur that you'd hear from some crazy 80-year-old. We were astonished. All of us knew the slur, but we had never used it in a hateful manner, and generally, being raised as angels, this really bothered us. I personally was kind of the leader, so I told the entitled kid to not speak like that, as we're all friends. After that, he started crying. You all know what comes next. Entitled parent was closely watching us from the few benches that were at the park, and after entitled kid started bawling, she rushed over with a disturbingly furious look on her face. She came up to me and yelled, "What the heck did you do to him?" Again, I can't quite translate how much she was cursing, but believe me, it was bad. Me, nothing. I only told him not to use those kinds of words. Entitled parent, stop lying. You made him cry on purpose, didn't you? You kids, where are your parents? Now I was a pretty hot-headed kid, so when this random lady started being disrespectful like that and being the leader of the group, I decided to raise my tone a little and respond accordingly. Me, excuse me, but we didn't do anything wrong. Your kid cursed and got the correct response to it. You should have taught him not to say those words. And don't talk to my friends like that. And then she slapped me. Now I don't know about other places, but where I live, slapping someone else's kid is something you don't even think about. So when she did it, I wasn't feeling pain. I was just amazed what an entitled parent is capable of. My friends were equally jaw-dropped. We immediately ran off and saw from the far how entitled kid was now going down the slide alone. I told my mom about this incident. She was furious. Keep in mind, I was an only child, raised as her angel, and I guess she was pretty entitled about me too, but not to the point of being a Karen. She asked me how she looked like, and I told her. Short, dark brown skin, brown hair, around her 40s. She told me she would call the police, but I don't know how that ended, as that must have happened while I was in school. The entitled parent and entitled kid were around for like one more week, until they straight up vanished. Fast forward 4 years. My mom was sick and tired of constantly having to clean and tidy up our house, so my parents agreed to getting a maid. I wasn't too stoked about that idea though, since I didn't like having strangers in my house, which is the reason why I never had a babysitter too. Anyway, there's no point in hiding it. The maid was the entitled parent. I do not know how that is possible, because we moved to a different city after I turned 14 so we could live closer to my grandparents. But it happened. The woman that slapped me in the cheek when I was 12 was now a maid in my house, 400 kilometers away from where I used to live. The first time I saw her, I almost went in shock. I actually had to leave and think about what the heck was going on. I wasn't sure if it was her, but ended up confirming this later. I went to tell my mom about this, and she believed me. But she told me that it wasn't a big deal and that we shouldn't do anything about it now, because the entitled parent was asking a low price of just €10 for an hour. This is an extraordinarily low price where I live, and my mom even insisted on giving entitled parent a bigger payment. Surprisingly enough, the entitled parent didn't remember me, and she wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary. She was just doing her job. The entitled kid was not with her though, until the third time we asked her to come over. My mom told me that entitled parent had asked us if she could bring her 9-year-old kid over, as he had nowhere to stay. My mom agreed. This was an instant red flag, as it perfectly matched the description of the entitled parent I knew, and what do you know? It was indeed the couple I was worried of. The entitled kid had gotten even chubbier and instantly recognized me. I knew that because of the way he was looking at me, but I don't know if he told entitled parent about it. Everything was going smoothly. I allowed entitled kid to play with my toys I didn't use until entitled kid came over to watch me play on my PSP. It was a pretty big thing back in the day, so I wasn't surprised he was curious. Entitled kid asked me what it was, to which I replied that it was a PSP. He told me that he hopes he'll get one of his own soon. After that, all he did was watch while I was playing, and that was all. The entitled parent and entitled kid left in an hour after getting their €10. The next time we asked the entitled parent to come over, didn't go well at all. See, I told my mom specifically to tell the entitled parent to not go into my room for privacy, as my room never needed cleaning and I didn't need strangers there, which she told her. But after I was out of the house, it was the entitled parent's time to shine. I was away hanging out with friends. After I came back home, started looking for my PSP in my room, and I couldn't find it. I also couldn't find 2 of my mini helicopters that were really expensive at the time. I immediately rushed over to my mom and asked her if the entitled parent had gone into my room. She said she probably didn't. We called her, asked about her, and she denied going inside my room. I was disappointed as heck. I got angry at my mom and told her not to let entitled parent in our house again. She understood herself about my concerns and agreed to finish with her. But there was a slight problem. My mom had recommended the entitled parent to one of her friends, whose son was one of my best friends, so I had an idea. I asked my friend to see if the entitled parent will bring her kid over, and if she does, ask the entitled kid if he has a PSP. You all know how this ended. I know it may seem unreal and made up, but the little jerk brought the PSP with him. My friend managed to tell me the serial code on it, and it was confirmed to be mine. My friend ended up telling his mom about it, and the entitled parent was soon confronted about it. Long story short, I got my PSP back. My 2 helicopters were gone though. I asked my mother about this a week ago. According to her, entitled parent was prosecuted for theft, and unfortunately for her, not petty theft, which is stealing something below the price of €100. She had to spend 6 months in prison, which I strongly disagree with, but laws here are laws, and had to pay us around €30,000, so she got what was coming, thankfully. F for the mini helicopters though. This was about 12 years ago. How do I remember it? Heck if I know. Next we've got entitled parent calls 911 over rubber ducky. A few years ago, actually no, more than a few years ago, I went to a little indoor pool with my family and another family who we considered family friends. So my brothers and the kids from the other family were playing catch with a ball and playing with rubber ducks and the other cliche pool things. Note that the toys we were playing with were ours. Everything was great. Enter entitled parent. So entitled parent comes in with their kids, and they seemed fine at first. I remember that entitled parent was with her 3 kids, the oldest probably no older than 9 or 10. Flash forward about 15 to 30 minutes, and my brother swims up to me with a confused look on his face. He told me that our toys were mysteriously gone. I looked over to entitled parent's family, and surprise, they had our toys. Now, we thought that this was just a misunderstanding at first. The indoor pool place did have toys, but we brought in our own since they don't really have a lot to go around, which is totally fine by the indoor pool place. So my brother, being more confident and older than I was at the time, politely tells the other family that those were our toys and that they should give them back. All of a sudden, entitled kid 2 starts screaming at my brother that it wasn't ours. This caused a bit of a commotion, and everyone in the pool turned to look at this wailing kid. After a few more failed requests, my brother goes up to my mom and the mother of our family friends. I'll call her Friend's mom for now, to explain what's going on. Friend's mom, who's known to not take crap from anyone, goes up to entitled kid 2. Friend's mom yells at entitled kid 2 to stop crying and give us back our toys. Personally, I thought Friend's mom overdid it, but it sure did work for a second. Entitled parent turns around with a furious look in his eyes. Entitled parent starts screaming at Friend's mom to stop harassing and threatening his precious little baby. Entitled kid 2 smiles as entitled parent hollered at Friend's mom. This may seem like the climax of the story, but oh boy, does it get worse. Entitled kid 3, the oldest one, gets out of the pool and tells a lifeguard that we were threatening him. Friend's mom and my mom were shocked at what entitled kid 3 was saying and talked to each other in another language to try to figure out what to do. Side note, Friend's mom and my mom are known to randomly switch from English to another language while talking to each other. It was nothing strange for us kids at the time. But all of a sudden, entitled parent turns to my mom. Entitled parent yells at my mom and Friend's mom to stop speaking that and speak English. At this point, everyone in the building turned their heads to watch. My mom didn't really have anything to do with this, but this guy had to drag her in. It was quiet for a moment, and entitled parent carried his poor little baby Waby away. By the way, they still have our toys. It seems as if getting our toys back wasn't even worth it at this point, and then entitled kid 2 starts cussing out Friend's mom while being carried by entitled parent. This was a punch in the face for everyone, because entitled kid 2 looked no older than 6 or 7, and she was throwing smack at Friend's mom. Friend's mom looks like she's about to snap when entitled parent turns around and shouts that he's gonna call 911 over a few balls and a rubber ducky. After this, I don't remember much. I hid underwater to escape the drama. But by the time I was above water again, entitled parent and his 3 kids were out of the pool. I thought that all of this had blown over by the time Friend's mom's family and my family had got out of the pool. And guess what? It didn't. I was drying my hair off with a towel when the police came. I think they were expecting a bit more than 2 moms and their kids, so they looked confused. One of the police officers starts questioning Friend's mom and my mom after a lovely chat with the screaming entitled parent. Eventually, the police realized that whatever entitled parent called for, still don't know what he said on the phone to this day, was a pile of bullcrap. All in all, we got our toys back and were able to exit the building without getting into any more legal trouble. I'm not sure what happened to entitled parent and his kids, but trust me, they definitely didn't get off scot-free. This experience was not the best experience I had. I would rate it a 2 out of 10, but I did learn how far entitled parents would go just to spoil their kids. Next, entitled mom wants me to cancel photo and threatens to sue me. I happened to run into r/entitled parents while watching YouTube, and then this story about what happened to me a while ago popped out in my mind, and I thought it would be perfect to post here. It's gonna be pretty long, so hang on tight. As I said, it was a while ago. 27th of May 2019 to be precise. Why do I know the exact date? You'll find out later. My dad went to work for the second shift of his job that day, which is about 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. He works for a company that tests and rings up radiator fans for various cars. So when my sister, who's 12, was about to exit school, it was up to me to fetch her and bring her home while my mom was in the kitchen. She has anxiety when she gets to drive, so I had to take her place. Now, before I continue, there's a little thing I want to explain about what's going to happen, just to get you in the environment. My sister gets out of school at about 1:20 p.m., and from 1 p.m. to about 1:30 p.m., the road where the kids go out is close to cars in order to allow entry/exit to school buses. There are even 2 signs that say this. but most people utterly ignore them. And janitors don't want to go and position the road signals themselves. Also, policemen get there to control traffic only once per week. The result? We often get invaded by cars while waiting in the middle of the road. Most of the time, it's either a touch-and-go experience, meaning the car is only passing through and that's it, or it's a resident that wants to enter/exit the road. Some other times, there are insistent people that try to pass through and either ignore our signals or just U-turn, and that's that. But sometimes, rarely, there are people who cross the line and annoy everyone waiting in the street. Guess what? Our entitled mom goes on that list. Now that day, while I was waiting along with a friend of my mother's, who was waiting for her twin daughters, which are my sister's best friends, we noticed a massive blue Audi trying to make its way in the road. I obviously signaled it to go backwards, as the road was closed. Also, other people signaled the driver to go backwards, just like I did. Did she listen? Spoiler alert, N-O. Instead, she came forwards to seek parking for her car. Note, I always go to the neighboring square with my car at about 12:55 p.m., as I know it's getting packed afterwards. Otherwise, I would be forced to park further away. And she was like that for about 7 to 8 minutes before doing that. After seeing that she had no intention of backing off, I decided I had enough, and at 1:28 p.m., I snapped a photo of the car with my cell phone for evidence. She ultimately parks her car, a bit messily, but she parks it. When I took my sister and was about to go home, uh-oh, here came entitled mom. Excuse me, did you just take a photo of my car? Me, calm and controlled. Yes, entitled mom, in a gibberish Italian. How dare you? Are you crazy? Cancel that photo. Not being Italian, she spoke Italian poorly. Me, can't do that. Entitled mom. Cancel that photo, I said. Me, rules are there for a reason. Cancel photo. Did you read the sign over there? It says forbidden access to cars from 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. But you can't do that. Referring to the photo. I can. Law is equal to everybody. That's it. I'm suing you. She goes back in her car. Basically, she went nuts and thought she was above all of us and decided to go there with the car anyway. Or it's just me who thinks that. Don't know. But I'm sure she did it on purpose because her kid goes to the same school as my sister. So she must have known the no cars rule and chose to break it. While I was speaking to my mom's friend, who agreed that she had just went full wacko, and we thought that was it. Well, it would have been if entitled mom didn't want to give me a parting gift of her idiocy. Entitled mom lowers her window. I'm going to the traffic warden to sue you. I shrug. Feel free to do that. I've got evidence anyway. Evidence of what? That you weren't allowed to be there. That road is closed from 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Then entitled mom drove away, muttering incomprehensible gibberish. For a while, I kind of feared that she really went to a policeman to sue me, or that she brought manpower or her husband to her aid, but luckily, I heard nothing of her ever since. Wow. By the way, want to know how I know the date in detail? 'Cause I still got that photo, with detailed date and hour. And no, not sharing the photo 'cause of privacy, and 'cause it's proof, and also because I just want to keep it to myself. Next we've got, entitled mom yells at me for giving her entitled daughter a punishment for being a nuisance and rude for 2 marching band seasons. Quick background knowledge. In my marching band, people who can give punishments normally make the people receiving them do push-ups. A year ago, I was a junior. A girl joined my marching band section with a bunch of other freshmen, and since we're one of, if not the smallest section in the band, we welcomed her in because we need everyone we can get. So we're all nice to her during the season, and she's nice and laughs with us. But as the season goes on, she becomes more and more insufferable. Back-talking staff, seniors, students, anyone you can think of. In my band, the only people who can do anything about any issues are seniors and staff members, with the directors being the ones with most power. So I couldn't do anything about it, and the one senior we had thought it wasn't worth trying to fight her, So we just dealt with it throughout the whole season. Now, this season, me being a senior and having multiple friends with me, we decided to be the nice seniors and not give out punishments. Turns out, we got the worst freshmen of the bunch, constantly ignoring staff orders, talking during practice, not playing their instruments when they're supposed to, etc. So me and the section leader, my friend, decided to put our foot down and say that from now on, the seniors are going to be able to punish anyone who's being either called out by staff or just doing general stuff they're not supposed to, and everyone fixes their attitude by this point. Except for guess who? The dear entitled daughter. She continues back-talking everyone and ignoring orders. So when we decide to tell her that she has to do push-ups, she says no and just doesn't do them. Me and the section leader and other seniors decide to not do anything about it, and this was obviously the wrong choice. A couple of days ago, the whole section goes to dinner at a fast food restaurant after one of our night practices, and the entitled mom takes the entitled daughter to dinner and decides to stay there for it. We all eat and have a good time, and after a while, I stand up and announce to everyone that because of the disastrous season we've had when it comes to applying ourselves, and also how we've been acting, everyone has to do 20 push-ups, which is way more than fair, because entitled daughter would have had to do like 500 by this point, and so would have many others. Entitled daughter looks at me dead in the eye and says, "No." So I give her another 5. So she says, "You can't do that, and you don't have the power to do so." And I say, "Yeah, I do. That's another 5. So she just stares at me and continues eating her food after a good 10 seconds or so, and so does everyone else. After we're all done eating and we're all talking to each other, the entitled mom comes up and looks at me dead in the eye and starts yelling, "Just so you know, I recorded that whole thing. You don't have any power or reason to give my daughter 30 push-ups." Me: "Actually, ma'am, yes I do. And giving 30 push-ups is a more than fair punishment considering the terrible season we've had so far, and I'm doing 20 myself. Plus, it's not like other sections in the band don't do this. Some even make their people run laps and do push-ups. Sometimes they make them do even more strenuous exercises." Entitled mom: "Well, you can't make my daughter do this. I'm showing this video to your band director and he'll have a talk with you." Me: "Go ahead. I'll be happy to talk to the band director about your absolute angel of a daughter." Entitled mom: "Don't sass me, little boy." I'm more than twice her height and look like a grown man. "I know way more than you could. You're too young to even do any of this." Well, ma'am, last I checked, there's nothing little about me. And just because I'm younger than you doesn't mean I don't know how people should act at her age. Entitled mom proceeds to stare at me right in the eyes and looks at her daughter and leaves in complete anger. The whole restaurant saw this and it was a huge mess. After they left, me and everyone there started talking about how insane the mother was, and then proceeded to leave and talk outside while people waited for their rides. During this, we noticed that entitled mom and entitled daughter were still in the parking lot, and when we came out, they were looking at us. So, as some fun, we all decided to start doing push-ups. After seeing us doing this, they drove away and they both flipped us off as they left. After all of this, me and the whole section started talking about how if this somehow came back to bite me in the butt and I got kicked out of the band, they would all quit, and the band won't have any of the major sound effects and big stuff that keeps it going, and has ranked it as one of the biggest high school marching bands in the nation. Edit. The section leader, who I help co-lead the section with, talked to the band directors this morning, and they're both taking my side through this.